I thought I was in love yet again. I was a young adult, had my own place, my own car, diamonds, pearls, a fabulous wardrobe, and a man who had not only stolen my heart, but spoiled me just like dear old Dad. Soon it would be my turn to take that walk down the aisle of matrimony, just like my older sisters before me. Or so I thought. See, by this time I had been out with a congressman, an alderman, a doctor, and a few others who caught my interest. One night, after one of our shows, my cousin and we decided to hang out and take in one of Bernie Mac's shows at the Cotton Club. When we got to the club, Bernie saw me and asked me to come on up and sing. I was just getting off work. I was like, I'm a little tired. I'm good. Well, after some typical Bernie Mac style encouragement, which entailed stepping off the stage, coming into the audience, and physically pulling me by my hand onto the stage, I decided I guess I'll sing. I serenaded the audience with a nice rendition of My Funny Valentine. During my performance, I noticed this nice-looking older gentleman walk into the club. When my performance was over, he complimented me and asked if I would like a drink. I said thank you very much, but no thank you, I'm fine. And I continued shooting the shit with my cousin, Bernie, and the rest of the guys. After a while, I noticed that the nice-looking gentleman was about to leave. I pointed him out to my cousin KC, that he had complimented me, and I didn't even invite him out there to Lucky's to hear us perform every night. Casey agreed that I should, so I did. I approached the gentleman and said, "Excuse me, sir. I just wanted to let you know that I perform over at Lucky's every night. If you'd like to come by and hear some jazz, you're welcome. We'd love to have you." I thanked him for the compliment and never really expected to see him again. But I was wrong. The next night, while at the gig, the hostess came over and told me a guy had called inquiring about how long I would be singing, and he wanted directions to the club. I automatically assumed that she was talking about Wayne. Now, Wayne was a record producer, DJ around Chicago at the time, and I had invited him down, and I really wanted to see him. During the second set, the nice-looking older gentleman from last night walks in. While singing, I thought to myself, what the hell is he doing here? And where the hell is Wayne? See, the band that I was performing with, it consisted of my cousin KC and 3 other guys. We've performed together for years, and we were like family. Like most families, biological or not, we had this game that we would play called, quote-unquote, switch. Whenever one of us would have more than one guest come to our show, one would keep person A busy while the others talked to person B. Then you would switch. Until the end of the night, when all of a sudden you had to leave suddenly. Oh, look at the time, gotta go. And no one was ever the wiser. Or so we thought. So on this particular night, I looked at Casey and simply said, switch. After the set, Casey went to work schmoozing the older gentleman while I had called to see if Wayne was coming down. Well, no such luck. Wayne had stood me up. So I headed over to handle my own guests. Much to my surprise, this old player was no fool. He went to work immediately. By the time I got to the table, he had bought the entire band drinks and food, and mine was on the way. This blew our little switch game completely out of the water. Because even though we were like family, the band, the guys were easier than a horny man at closing time at a bar. Especially when it came to food and drinks. All I could do was stand there and go, really? Really? Whatever. Now, every night for the next 2 weeks, this player was at the club asking me to go out with him. I finally got tired of trying to find clever ways to say no, so I finally agreed. This was the beginning of the end. After some coercing, persuading, and elbow nudging from a friend, I decided to let down my guard and we became an item. It was in many ways the perfect relationship. He wined and dined me and bought me the most exclusive and expensive flowers and gifts. Now, this, in a young girl's eyes, shows everyone on the outside that this girl has someone who really cares about her. After a couple of years of dating, we began talking about marriage. The race was on. I began picking out bridesmaids' dresses, flowers, caterers, and reception halls, the whole 9 yards. I was very busy. But even so, I was so busy, I thought that I had to give him a gift. Unfortunately, by this time, virginity was no longer an option. So I pondered. What does one give a man that seemingly has everything? What can I give him that he wouldn't already have? After thinking long and hard, I thought, I bet no one has ever written a song for him. So I went to work, and I wrote, I do. It was meant to be his gift that I would sing to him at the altar. What a beautiful sentiment, right? I was so caught up in the idea of possibly getting married that it wasn't until later that I noticed I wasn't really getting any help from him. In fact, I didn't even have a ring yet. No worries. Christmas was around the corner. Maybe he wanted to surprise me. And surprise me he did. The Thanksgiving holiday was rapidly approaching when my hairdresser, Chris, asked me out of the blue if my man would be out of town for Thanksgiving. I said no. After all, he hadn't mentioned anything about not spending Thanksgiving with me and my family. At least not until a couple of days later, when he said he was going to visit his grandmother in New York. Thinking my man placed a high importance on his family, I said, oh, okay, just give me a call let me know when you get there, okay? He said, okay. Well, time goes by and he does not call. And my mind began wondering. Not wondering if he had gotten into an accident and couldn't call. It began wondering, why would Chris know my man would be out of town before I did? And why hasn't my man called me? So, I called Chris. Chris informs me that not only does he do Juanita Jordan's hair and my hair, he also does Mr. Gentleman's ex-girlfriend's hair. And she said that they had plans to spend Thanksgiving together. At this point, my mouth is wide open. I go, okay. Okay, thanks. What should I do with this information? After all, I had no proof. Maybe, just maybe, my man had told me the truth. But I really didn't believe this bullshit myself. I couldn't let it tear me apart, though. At least, not until I saw him and confronted him about what I had heard. It was Saturday morning. I was heading to the studio to finish recording I Do, when I saw my man's car parked in front of his ex's place, and my heart sunk. See, I knew it was his ex's place because she had sent him a card, and the return address on the envelope was the address that he was parked in front of. My heart sunk. So instead of going to the studio to record this now lie of a song, I canceled the studio booking and parked my car right behind his, and I waited. See, my plan was to let him know that I had caught him in a lie. And I did. Now, to digress for a moment, the reason that I knew that Mr. Gentleman had such great style and taste was that we had identical sports cars. Mine was red and his was black. So, back to the story. So he comes down and he hides his suitcase behind my car. And then he comes up to the window and says, "Hey, hun, what are you doing here?" I turned around and I said, "I should ask you the same question. And before you answer, I know that's your ex-girlfriend's house there." He says, "Oh, yes, well, she just called and said that she needed something, so I just came over." Huh. I said, "That's interesting. Nice bed here." "Oh, yeah, well, I just rushed out." I said, "Up, stop. You are a partner at your law firm. You never leave the house before you groom." I said, "Have a good day. Bye." And I sped off. He picked up his bag, ran to his car, and sped after me. Now, thinking that he would normally just go to my place out in Calumet City, I sped down Lakeshore Drive from Hyde Park, went over to the Dan Ryan. I'm doing about 100 miles an hour, and he's right behind me. I'm headed down the Dan Ryan, and if you know Chicago's Dan Ryan, you either have to get off on 99th Street and go straight down Halsted, or get off on 115th Street and go over to Halsted. I was going to 116th Street, so I just kept speeding to 115th. I'm sure I ran a few lights, but sorry. So I get in front of my mom's house, and he's right behind me. We both screech, and I jump out of the car and I run into the house. He sits in his car right behind me. When I get in the house, my mom is like, "What is going on?" And I told her and my Aunt Vera what was going on. He sat out there for about 4 hours, at which point my mom and my aunt, they said, "Barbria, maybe you ought to go and talk to him." And I was like, "I have nothing to say to him. He is a liar. He is a cheat. I have nothing to say to him." But after thinking about it, because I didn't want my mom and my aunt, her sister, worrying more, I went out and talked to him. We smoothed it over, so all of that didn't do a whole lot of good, because I did eventually forgive him. But I could not forget. He had destroyed our love. He had destroyed that trust. Besides being superficial, I was really looking forward to getting that ring. Christmas. His secretary had informed me that my man had spent the entire day in Bloomingdale's jewelry department, and I would love my gift. Well, not so much. The box was a little bit too big to be a ring. It was a string of Mickey modal pearls. Were they beautiful? Yes. Were they expensive? Oh, yeah. Was it what I wanted? Nope. New Year's Eve came? No joy. So maybe he's waiting for my birthday, February. My birthday. He takes it out before we go to dinner. It is a small box from Tiffany's. This was it. I couldn't wait to get to dinner so I could open this box. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I sold my soul, bit my tongue, and backtracked my whole belief system just to open this tiny box with the blue wrapping. With hands trembling, I opened the box and oh my God, to my shock and amazement, it was pearl and diamond studded earrings to match the pearl necklace. Beautiful? Yes. Expensive? Yes. Disappointed? Hell yes. Then it hit me. This older guy with a never-ending credit limit had the one thing his money couldn't buy. A young, vivacious girl who was so in love with him she would put up with anything he would dish out. As long as I waited for that ring, he could string me along for as long as he wanted, while I ignored my own self-worth. A few months before all of this came to pass, a friend of mine, Jerry, who's a guitar player in Chicago, excellent actually, he told me, "You're not a songwriter unless someone has paid you to be a songwriter." That stuck in the back of my head. So, I finished recording the song, and I entered it in a nationwide songwriting competition. It won first place. I was no longer just a singer, I was a songwriter who was paid $1,000 for her efforts. I realized that I didn't need this man to define me. I was already defined. Whatever heartache I suffered only because I chose to stay in that place at that time. I now knew better and was well on my way to doing better. To thine own self be true. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Next is my award-winning wedding song, I Do, which is available on my CD, Love Always, and available on Apple Music, Spotify, and other internet retail shops. Hope to see you on the next podcast. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Today I share with you my love and my life. You're my every dream come true. I'm so